safety engineer for the Arizona Division of the Federal Highway Administration. My name is Kelly LaRosa. I've been with the Federal Highway Administration for 6 years, but I've been here in Arizona for 20 years, and I've always been involved in pedestrian and bicycle safety and education, and excited about working on pedestrian and bicycle programs and projects. So I'm thankful for the invitation to be here today and to talk to you this morning. In my role as safety engineer, I also oversee pedestrian and bicycle programs in Arizona. I have a bicycle. I am not a commuter bicyclist, although I'd love to be. I'm more of a recreational rider. However, we're a one-car family, so someone in my family is always bicycling. We're using light rail and carpooling and trying to get around. I did, however, find a way to ride my bicycle to work when I'm inspecting a new project we have with the City of Phoenix. It's a Grand Canal Tiger project, which I'll talk more about. So I get to ride my bike for work purposes, which is always exciting. So how many people today rode their bikes here this morning?
Oh, yeah.
Great. Always excited to see that. Did you find it smooth sailing? Was it nerve-wracking? Did you have any challenges besides the event setup? Roadblocks everywhere. So sometimes we encounter those things on the road. For example, who put this sign up? I have a feeling the alligators put it up. This was obviously taken in the southeast area of the United States. So how have bicyclists historically been treated? Are we people who get in the way as an equal user, or are we a second user, or even a third priority user? We are trying to change that. As you know, at the federal level, things can move at a snail's pace, but we're making changes in the right direction so all users can be accommodated. So let me start off by just describing who is FHWA. The Federal Highway Administration is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. And in case you didn't know, the U.S. Department of Transportation has a whole bunch of administrations under it, including aviation, rail, freight, maritime, transit, even pipelines is under the Department of Transportation. FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration under the U.S. Department of Transportation, provides expertise, resources, and information to improve our nation's highway system and its intermodal connections. Our main customer is the state DOT, but we work with other agencies, including other federal partners, the MPO, tribal agencies, and local agencies, including counties and cities. For bicyclists, the FHWA has two overarching federal programs. The first is the Federal Aid Highway Program, which provides financial assistance to states to construct and improve the national highway system and other roads, bridges, and trails. And the second is the Federal Lands Highway Program, which provides access to and within our national forests and parks, on Indian reservations, and other public lands. FHWA also has a research and technology program. So I don't want to bore everyone today, but I do want to set the stage. So I'm going to share a little bit of regulation and history, so you have some background information on the federal perspective. Until 1991, I'll be honest, almost all of FHWA funds were for highway construction, with limited funding for bicycle facilities. Before the ICE-T transportation bill, funding for bicycle and pedestrian projects averaged about $4 million annually across the nation. Then with ICE-T, it increased planning involvement and added broad eligibility to include walking and bicycling, and included trails and scenic byways. With T21 in 1998, minor revisions favored bicycling and walking, but it also established the Recreational Trails Program. And then in 2005, with Safety Lou, we added the Safe Routes to School program. Then apparently we got tired of naming things by T's, but we didn't pass another transportation funding bill until MAP 21 in 2012, so there was a long lull in any improvements. MAP 21 was a 2-year bill. It was much more inclusive of pedestrians and bicyclists overall. Although in the name of being more flexible, it did discontinue the Safe Routes to School program as a separate set-aside, along with many other separate set-asides, although Safe Routes to School activities are still eligible under other programs. And then on December 5th, 2015, President Obama signed into federal law the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, or the FAST Act, which is the transportation bill we are all living under now. This is the first federal law in over 10 years to provide long-term funding certainty for surface transportation. The FAST Act authorizes $305 billion for the U.S. Department of Transportation's highway safety, public transportation, bicycle and pedestrian programs, freight, and a whole bunch of other things. For bicycle and pedestrian and even transit alternatives, it includes funding the renamed Surface Transportation Program, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, CMAQ and the Transportation Alternatives Program. It also has a new Ladders of Opportunity program, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about also. So along with funding, which has improved over the years, we also have, over the past few years, new issued guidance and policy statements from the US DOT and the Federal Highway Administration that support bicycling areas. For example, in 2010, the United States Department of Transportation Policy on Bicycle and Pedestrian Accommodation incorporates safe and convenient walking and bicycling facilities into transportation projects and says that transportation agencies have the responsibility to improve conditions and opportunities for walking and bicycling in their transportation systems. In 2013, the Federal Highway Administration published a memo expressing that the FHWA support for taking a flexible approach to bicycling and pedestrian facility design, and also supports the AASHTO design guides, the NACTO Urban Bikeway Design Guide, and ITE guides. Another popular guide that was released in 2015 is the Separated Bike Lane Planning and Design Guide. And two current U.S. initiatives that address safety issues and help communities create safer, better connected bicycling and walking networks are, first, the Ladders of Opportunity program, which helps more Americans reach opportunity through a transportation system that provides reliable, safe, and affordable ways to reach jobs, education, and essential services. And sometimes bicycling is a priority choice for transportation for those folks. And many of you already heard that the U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox launched the Safer People, Safer Streets initiative over a year ago to address non-motorized safety issues and networks. This initiative rolled out a range of targeted strategies, including conducting a road safety assessment in every state, and included a Mayor's Challenge program. Another thing that recently happened is the Safety Performance Measures final rule was just published a couple weeks ago on March 15th. It has an effective date of April 14th, and this final rule implements the safety performance requirements that were established in both MAP 21 and the FAST Act. You can review these on the Federal Register, and basically it establishes 5 performance measures for the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities, the number of serious injuries, and the rate of serious injuries, and, which was not previously proposed, now includes the number of combined non-motorized fatality and serious injuries. This is great news for us here today because now all states will formally be reporting this information as a national effort to track how we are doing at reducing bicycle and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries. The U.S. DOT has also adopted the Towards Zero Deaths goal as a national strategy for highway safety, and this is a national vision for a highway safety for all users free of fatalities. Now I'm going to quickly mention some federal funding programs and sources that can be applicable to bicycling. The Surface Transportation Program is one of the largest of these for non-motorized. But first I want to talk about how federal funding works. Federal aid funding is apportioned through the states through a statutory formula. Federal aid program is a federal oversight and state administered program. FHWA has oversight for project compliance with federal laws, but does not actually do the project prioritization. Project sponsors apply through state or MPOs, and states and large MPOs can develop their own competitive processes. Terry Kennedy's here to provide more information about that in the next presentation. But the federal aid program is a reimbursable program where state DOTs are reimbursed for the costs that they incur. Most of them have a match requirement, although there are some programs, and bicycle programs often fall within this, where there is a 100% federal aid fund assigned to it. So back to the Surface Transportation Program. The FAST Act actually renamed this. It amended the STP program and changed the name to the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, STBGP, and I probably will not remember that acronym until they come up with a new transportation bill and a new acronym. This program has the most flexible eligibilities among all the federal aid highway programs. Its generally eligible projects include bicycle and pedestrian amenities in the construction of highways, bridges, trails, tunnels, projects for transit, ITS projects, and even border infrastructure. So the STP, or the STBGP, also has funded a wide variety of other areas, including environmental and railroads and ports. Another program created under MAP 21 is the Transportation Alternatives Program. It consolidated some of those previous set-asides that I mentioned earlier. The Transportation Alternatives activities within this program incorporate most but not all of the previous transportation enhancement activities authorized under the older T Surface Transportation Acts. It also includes the Recreational Trails Program. It absorbed the Safe Routes to School program, which is no longer a set-aside, but is still fully eligible within the Transportation Alternatives Program. And under the FAST Act, the TAP has now been rolled under the newly renamed STBGP program. The Recreational Trails Program is also included. Last year, this program received $820 million annually. The Transportation Alternative Program is also very commonly used for bicycle programs and projects. Next, we have the Recreational Trails Program. Eligible activities under this program include maintaining and restoring existing trails, including bridges, and constructing new trails, developing and rehabilitating trailside and trailhead facilities, purchasing and leasing trail construction and maintenance equipment, acquiring the easements for those trails, and accessibility and maintenance issues. The Safe Routes to School program, which I already mentioned, is very popular with many states across the country. It's mostly used to fund pedestrian and bicycle education activities for children between the ages of kindergarten and 8th grade. It includes sidewalk improvements, traffic calming, crossing improvements, on-street bicycle facilities and off-street bicycle facilities, secured bike parking, and traffic diversion improvements, which separate pedestrians and bicyclists from vehicular traffic. And I mentioned the project that I get to actually ride my bike for. Since 2009, the Tiger program has provided nearly $4.6 billion to 381 projects in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. So the Tiger program is called the Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery Program. It's a discretionary grant program, and it's a very competitive program. The US DOT received more than 6,700 applications requesting more than $134 billion for transportation projects across the country. So it's a very competitive program. The Tiger Grant Program supports innovative projects, including multimodal and multi-jurisdictional projects. It's now in its 8th round, and U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox has recently announced that $500 million more will be made available for Tiger grants. This last round, in the 7th round, the City of Phoenix received a Tiger grant to upgrade and install and finish almost 8 miles along the Grand Canal pathway in the City of Phoenix. Okay, so when the Clean Air Act amendments were passed in 1990, it provided for a stronger, more rigorous link between transportation and air quality planning. And then Congress passed ICE-T in 1991. It brought transportation to the forefront and increased focus on environmental programs and created the CMAQ program. And because of that, providing alternative modes of transportation addresses environmental concerns with air quality and congestion. So over $2 billion is available nationally in the CMAQ program each year. It covers a wide range of project types, including but not limited to ITS and signal coordination, alternative fuel vehicles, park and rides, bicycle projects, pedestrian projects, transit services, roundabouts, and some other things. There's a few other federal funding programs which, depending on the nature of the specific project or program you might be interested, could be eligible for one of these. These are not as commonly used for bicycle projects, but they are available. And I have a handout for you. It's up here on the table, and it has a list of all the federal funding programs. If you're interested in finding out more information, you can come up and get a copy of this spreadsheet, and it'll tell you what type of project would be eligible for what type of funding source. There's also a link to the FHWA pedestrian and bicycle safety page, which has a lot of resources for you. I also have a handout of this, in addition to a bunch of other resources that you might want to use for more information. So that's another handout that you can pick up, and they're both right up here by this microphone on the front table. And then lastly, I just want to mention a few other resources to make sure you all know about. How many people have heard of the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan? Yay! One day the whole room will be raising its hand. The Arizona SHSP, which stands for Strategic Highway Safety Plan, is an Arizona document. It's owned by ADOT, and it's available on this website. It also has a vision towards zero deaths by reducing crashes for a safer Arizona. Within the Arizona SHSP, there are 12 emphasis areas, and there's one I specifically want to mention. It is designated specifically for non-motorized users, which is great that we have a separate set-aside emphasis area under this program. So if you want to get more involved, go to the link on the handout, the SHSP website. It should have a way for you to get involved with pedestrian and bicycle initiatives at the state level. And I think I saw Matt Zoll walking. He's one of the co-chairmen, so see him. I didn't have time to go into a whole lot of great detail about data, but quickly in Arizona, specific to bicyclists, 2% of motor vehicle crashes, these are reported crashes, across the state involve a bicyclist in fatality-related crashes. And 4% of serious injuries across the state involve a bicyclist. So that just puts it in perspective at the state level. Mike Sanders will be here this afternoon to talk a little bit more about some state DOT projects and initiatives. He has an ADOT statewide bicycle and pedestrian plan. It was updated last in 2013, and the plan focuses on the state highway system, but does recognize the interdependence of the state highway system with regional transportation. There's also a state bicycle safety action plan, which Mike can speak more to about, and these are also both listed on the resources handout for more information. Last but not least is a program that we have at the Federal Highway Administration called the Focused Approach to Safety Program. There are 3 safety focus areas under this program: intersections, roadway departure, and pedestrian and bicyclists. The pedestrian bicycle is mostly identified by focus cities. The program provides a lot of additional resources, including people, such as step time, tools and training, data analysis, so that we can create a tailored approach for those focus cities in addressing where the needs are most. The focused state or focus city is eligible to receive these additional resources to help achieve its fatality goals. And one day we hope that is all zero. Arizona has been a focus state since the program was started in 2004. Phoenix and Tucson are the focus cities in the state of Arizona. But as a focused approach to safety program has gone through several updates since 2004, with the most recent update in 2015, I'm very excited to hear that now bicyclists are part of the focused area where pedestrians and bicyclists are included together. So with that, that kind of gives a broad perspective of federal funding and programs that support bicycle initiatives at that level. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes.
I want to thank you first for coming here to present today. It's been a very informative talk.
Good.
Is there anything that you're aware of as far as where the legislature is going with texting and driving in Arizona?
In Arizona, the state has not pursued or successfully pursued a statewide texting and driving ban, or even any use of mobile devices ban. There are some cities that have them across the state, so the thought is that it could potentially end up like the smoking initiatives started several decades ago, where individual cities and then states came on board, and then eventually it was commonplace. So we're hoping to get to there at some point. There are some supportive initiatives at the federal level, but nothing that is regulatory that requires that. But you will hear Secretary LaHood started it, and Secretary Fox also supports not using your cell phone at all for any reason while driving. Yes?
Who typically submits these grant proposals and identifies programs? Is it local government employees or coalitions, or who's asking?
That's a great question, and I think it also depends on the funding program. There's certain requirements on who's eligible. A lot of times it's a public entity. The Safe Routes to School program, for example, has a few more other eligible entities that can apply for that program if you prove you're a nonprofit, that kind of thing. So depending on the federal funding program you're interested in, you can look and see what type of entities are eligible to apply. And sometimes states have a little bit more conservative view on who they accept applications from.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, and please bike safe.
Okay, now, I promised I was going to pick on people in the audience a little bit.